All right, we're back with another episode of the Sab Powers podcast. Here today with a new friend, just meeting for the first time, Brooke Hoerr, everybody.
Hey, yeah, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no problem. How's it going, man? How are you?
Good. It's been a nice night. It's been a nice night so far. Yeah, this is always sort of the highlight of my week is we do a Friday show for Big Smoke Comedy, and we have 3 comedians on, a half hour kind of punchy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to see a lot of faces and friends that tune in from different places, so it's very special. And then afterwards, my daughter appeared with her choir on a commercial for Virgin. And this was the first time, anything like this has happened. She's had some good experiences with the choir, but being on Channel 4 was pretty cool. So we've just been doing that. We just got done sort of tracking on Channel 4 and ITV.
That's so cool, actually. That's so awesome. Yeah, the phone company Virgin?
Virgin Media.
Okay. I haven't heard that. I don't really know much about anything, to be honest. I'm sure. But that's super cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I mean, most recently, Richard Branson was in the news for getting government funds for Virgin, and he was taking a lot of that because, he owns an island and things like this. But, I mean, I think on the other hand, you've got a government-imposed, a taxpayer-imposed lockdown, and that's going to harm every business. And so to say, hey, my I complied with the lockdown voluntarily, and I was hurt for a few months, and it's going to cause me to lay off employees without a bailout. I don't know. I mean, everybody else is getting bailed out, but you and me.
Yeah, man. You do comedy in England, right? Is that where you live? Or?
Yeah, I live here in East London, Isle of Dogs. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And you do comedy. You do comedy in Canada, yeah?
Yeah, I live in Niagara Falls, Canada.
Very cool. So you're right across the border.
Yeah, exactly. I just moved out into the country, but at my old house, I could walk to the border in probably 20 minutes.
Nice one. So now, are you a bit out in the sticks right now?
Yeah. I live with my parents. We got 16 acres of property. It's mostly forest, and then we have paths through the forest and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
That's heaven. That's heaven.
Man.
I grew up for a few years as a kid. My dad was doing all right for himself, and I went to live with him, and he lived on an old Boy Scout camp, sort of proper camp. It was on a lake, and there was trees planted in rows. So it wasn't a big forest. It wasn't as many acres as you're talking, but it was enough to run around and get up to some fun, some natural fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, motorcycles and shooting cans with guns. So, yeah.
I wish I was doing stuff like that. I shot guns twice, maybe 3 times in my life. I remember I shot skeet with a shotgun, and it was so much fun. It made me want to buy a shotgun just to shoot skeet. You ever do that?
Yeah, I did. I'm okay at it. I wasn't really good at hitting ducks or anything like that, but my dad, an excellent skeet shooter. And the last time I went was when I met my wife, and we'd been married maybe a year, 2. And my dad we dragged him out, and then he was just taking every clay pigeon out of the sky above this cornfield and just sort of standing there like John Wayne, It was like extension of his hand. Yeah, the guy definitely shoot, man.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So what's the comedy scene like in London, before all this quarantine shit happened? What was it? Because here in Toronto, it's super competitive and stuff. What was it like there?
Well, I didn't get into comedy to compete. I suppose it is, but I got into comedy to create my own party and to sort of socialize at a higher level with a broader group of people, a nicer, funnier group of people. And so for me, it's been heaven. It's been heaven.
That's awesome.
I don't get cliquey. don't get cliquey. One of the reasons I run a gig is so I can just protect the freak. As an old improv instructor in Chicago, she's not that old. She's quite young, actually. Susan, she used to say, "Protect the freak," and I really took that to heart. Even feeling as one, feeling like one myself sometimes, and yeah. So it's protect the freak, and the other thing she used to say, and I keep this in mind when I'm in an intimate show, because we're an indie gig in London. We don't draw huge crowds. It's often free, if not all the time free. I've charged a few times at different places. But generally, if I'm not having fun, I'm the asshole.
Yeah. Would you put me on your
Yeah.
show if I came out there, man?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
100%.
That'd be sick, dude. That'd be so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we get some great new acts on. We had an act. I think it was maybe her second show. I went to her student show because I was a friend. And she did her second show. I believe it was her second show or one of her first couple at Big Smoke. And then 4 months later, she on Funny Women UK. Her name's Laura Smith. She's a lovely lady. She was a house mom. Like, she got into comedy and got into competition and, did the course, jumped on a few stages, and then won Funny Women UK. So it's a scene that way too.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, you just see a lot of success. You see a lot of success, and you start knowing more people are succeeding. And I love to see people I know succeed. I love to see people that I know win. It's always better than seeing someone you don't know win. So I'm kind of like making it look good. I never wanted to be at the top of the pile, sort of beating my chest like I'm the funniest guy on the planet. But I like to be up there with my arms around my friends, saying, "Hey, we're entertaining people here. This is good."
Yeah, for sure, man. I feel the same way. I've been doing comedy 4 years. It's crazy, man. Like, it's like a whole like family of comedians almost, right? And like we
Yes.
hop on all each other's shows and like we'll drive for like 2 hours even, and I keep seeing like the same faces, and like seeing people grow is really cool. Like, I remember like
That's amazing.
like I've had
Go
people
ahead.
that like started like maybe like 2 years ago that are better than me now, and it's like, ah, damn. It's like you've been doing it half the time.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember. I'm sure as a kid, I was kind of I had some rage in my cage, so I'm sure I felt jealous as a kid of some other kids and things like that. But I don't really. That's not really a thing I possess. I always feel like we're all on our own journey. It's I'm always being proselytized to back home. The evangelicals who are sort of the dominant political force where I grew up, the middle of the middle of the middle. They're always trying to get you to come on board, and I would just say that I believe everybody's on their own journey. So for me, coming on board to something like that doesn't really make sense. But my defense to them is, hey, maybe I'll come around later. Maybe this is, but just because you found Jesus, just because you found comedy, just because you found, doesn't mean that it's a great idea for everybody right now. And also, everybody's on their own journey in terms of it clicks. Sometimes your comedy's probably plateauing, but then other times you're on some great incline because it's clicking in your head.
Right,
and that's
for sure.
Process. I went through this in wrestling, and it was the same way. I mean, I had major mental blocks, and then it's always hindsight's 20/20. So you just think, wow, I just never thought of it that way until today, and it makes so much sense.
Right, true. And I feel like some people are also just like working harder than me, right? Like, I did probably the same jokes for a couple years, right? I did like the same 5-10 minutes for like a couple years, and then finally, because it was like working well, right? It was like I was crushing with that time when I should have really like been like, okay, that crushes, now I should try some other stuff or whatever, right? Which I was finally starting to do. Good.
I think there's a lot of comedians like Louis C.K. I think he did the same set forever as well, and he was even sort of, you forget all the controversy, but the genius of him the clear genius of him didn't come until he just stopped giving a fuck so much, in a way. So I mean, good job not giving a fuck, for one, in a special way, and then also when you're doing the same set over and over, you learn a lot. You learn so much about the perfection in the word placement, and when you lean into it, when you finally really, before you get tired of it, and you're finally like, I got to do something new. You're leaning into things because you know they're going to laugh before they do. And that's really my first recommendation to get into stand-up was when I was improvising in Chicago. I improvised at the Laugh Factory with a small troupe. We were doing sets in between stand-up comedians. And there was a comedian, Thelonious Monk, not the jazz musician Thelonious Monk, but a play on his name. And he's, we got paid a beer. So we were having a beer afterwards. I'm sure he probably actually got paid, but we got paid a beer as improvisers. And he was enjoying with us afterwards. And he just said, you ought to try to stand up. I was like, all right, it's scary,
Yeah.
And all you got to do is stand up in front of a room full of people and say something. Just get on the mic and talk. And pretty soon you'll figure out what they laugh at, keep it. And then pretty soon you'll build up 5 minutes and you'll know it's going to work in 8 out of 10 rooms. And the other 2 rooms that don't laugh, you're sort of like, what are they now? No, that's not really totally true. You take it to heart every time it doesn't go well. But, he was kind of like, look, man, just it's a process.
Yeah, for sure, man. I guess like everything is like a process in a way like that, I guess. And you have to just put in the work and like just practice and practice just to become good at anything, right? So it's like with comedy, it's like the same thing. It's like I always wanted to be good at crowd work, but I was always afraid to try and fuck up, right? Where it's like you just got to dive in and try it. And like it's okay if you fuck it up, you know what I mean? There's like 1,000 more shows you can do in the future to get better.
That's absolutely true. And one of the best ways to do crowd work is to MC your own show. And when you do that, you're not meant to be the funniest guy in the room anyway. You're meant to say, I know I'm the MC, but check out my friends tonight.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Crowd work, and you can get lucky on crowd work too. And then all of a sudden you start to, develop a couple of tricks. I'm just in England. I'm just a dumb American, so I can ask questions to the crowd. I can say, where are you from? And they're like, so and so, London. And I'm like, which bit? I have been here for going on 9 years.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
bit? Crouch in. I'm like, oh, crouch in. Yeah, what's the stereotype there? Right? It's like coffee shops and then we have a good laugh about whatever the stereotype is. But asking that question, asking someone else to tell you the stereotype there is a fun, open-ended question. And then you'll hear someone in the back of the room go, shout out something or laugh or chavs or something like that. Is that true? Are you chavs?
What's chavs?
Yeah, I'd say MC your own gig. Because then there's not so much at stake.
Okay, cool. Word, yeah, for sure, man, for sure. I asked this question to everybody, so I feel like I gotta ask you too. What are your thoughts on ghosts? Do you believe that ghosts are real?
I do not, but I do believe people live on in our thoughts. And I like to keep an open mind with ghosts because it's a fun thought. It's a fun thought. And I really just think when I'm food for worms that I'm probably not reforming some kind of ghost-like character, but they just, like I think when you die, you lose 21 grams with your exhale or something like that. And there's been people who
21 grams? There's no way it's that high, bro. Maybe it's like 0.021 grams or something.
I think you're right. There's no way it's 21 grams.
Yeah.
There's no way. Who knows? I mean, not like your exhale. I'm not saying exhale, but they say that
When you
the
die, yeah, I know.
corpses.
I've heard that you lose like a tiny, tiny bit of weight when you die. I don't know if that's a wives' tale or whatever, but I have heard that as well.
Yeah. So how about you? How about you? Do you believe in ghosts, Sam?
No, I've always not really believed in ghosts my whole life. Like life is already so crazy, you know what I mean? It's like I don't believe
I
in
agree.
ghosts or magic or anything. Like even animals, like all the different like species of like fish and just even animals in general are just all so crazy. Like you if you ever watch those like shows on Netflix or whatever, those nature shows, like you see like the craziest birds. Like I saw like this. I'm getting real off track here, but I saw this bird that like
Yeah,
cleans up.
right. They look like
Yeah,
yeah,
go
they
ahead.
just look like aliens, and they're
Yeah,
remarkable. I mean, if you see parts of the ocean and see, some of the things that have been shot there, of course, it's remarkable. So yes, the supernatural. How about this? I think what I really do is don't trouble myself like you with the supernatural because there's
hmm
so many other things to understand that are physically proven and
hmm
have evidence. And I really do focus on the evidence. And when I was a kid in high school, there was the occasional, it would be, I might be remiss to suggest this on a podcast, but there was the occasional hit of LSD that would
yeah,
make it fun. Yeah. So if you're growing up in a 98% German Protestant community where literally nothing's funny, you're a born sinner, eat your sauerkraut. Yes. But and then you do something like that. What it does is it's intense, and you sort of scramble your head for a second and you have to really rebuild the next day on logic or when it's over, when the trip is over. You just have to think, well, okay, why do I get out of bed? Oh yeah, I need to eat. Okay, how do I walk? Okay, one for the other, that makes sense. But what you don't do is sort of fill in the dogma again. I don't, I think I would, I was always sort of ambitious to sort of break out beyond the circle of people that I was with and how they thought. Um, and I would say something like that was beneficial to sort of thinking logically. It took a few more years for me to probably um, exercise the supernatural beliefs, but they're really almost neurotic in some cases. I mean, the sort of impulsive need to pray or anything else. I mean, I don't have anything. I'm a big fan of, say, going to church on Sunday and seeing all your mates and checking in to make sure you're thinking correctly. And there's no substitute for FaceTime. No substitute for FaceTime. But the supernatural stuff is a bit heavy-handed. It's a bit, gosh, imagine if we were alive when Galileo was alive and everyone was insisting that the earth was flat and everybody thought it. And if you took a democratic vote, you'd be outnumbered. You'd be in the minority if you thought the world was a sphere.
hmm
And they, put someone to death over it, like Galileo, who pronounced what was it? The heliocentric theory. So it's a little bit like that. I'm not going to buy into every bit of bullshit that gets spoon-fed to me in my
hmm
local community and not think about it. Because in the end, when you press them, they'll admit it's my belief. It's what I believe. And you don't need evidence for beliefs. And that's true.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that was such a great answer, dude. Such a fucking great answer. Goddamn. Do you play any instruments, anything like that?
I tinker. I got a keyboard here and I have a guitar that I keep tuned. And I'm not, I did have a few piano lessons as a kid, but
hmm
my mom, well, we had to ride our bicycle about 7 miles to go to the lesson. And my mom was on a summer day or after school when it was sunny, she'd be like, practice that piano. So I quickly, got away from that. But nowadays I'll play, I was playing today a little bit. and I was playing the guitar a little earlier. But I wouldn't say. I mean, I think ultimately my instrument may be more my voice, so I sing a lot. But no, everybody sings. You know.
Man, I think that everybody should get a ukulele. They're so easy to play, and it's like I used to play guitar too. I would try, but it was like so hard. And then I got a ukulele, and it's like the easiest thing ever. And if you're like a singer, that's perfect, right? You just got like a simple little tune on there or whatever, you know?
We play around here a lot. My wife is an excellent ukulele player, and she picked it up just as we've been married. I didn't play the piano or the guitar before I got married either. But you know, you spend some time at home and you dig in the home front, and you start busting on instruments, and we like to sing. So definitely, my wife plays the ukulele, and I get to sing. So
That's
it's a treat.
awesome, man. That's so cool. You guys already have one. That's hilarious. You didn't mention it before though
Yes,
with the other instruments.
nah, because that's the one my wife plays, but I like
Yeah.
it. Great. Yeah.
Um,
So what's the stereotype there? Yeah, I'm just calling back to what we mentioned earlier. So where you're at in Niagara Falls,
mhm.
Canada, what's the stereotype?
The stereotype of what? Like, what's the average person here?
Well, what if fellow Canadians were gonna make fun of your region or put you in a box
Mm.
and label you all the same way unfairly?
I don't know. People kind of like really like Niagara Falls. It's like the cities around us that all get like trash talked. I feel like uh,
Well,
there's
Niagara,
Niagara on the
yeah,
Lake, which is like all the super rich people. Um, then we have like
it's all the wet
Welland.
people.
Go ahead.
You said there's Niagara on the Lake, which is all the wet people.
Oh, all the rich people.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's
And
like
then
all.
what?
So like Niagara on the Lake is like super fancy. All the rich people are there, and then all like the poor people, I guess, live in Welland. And then like I don't know, it's like Toronto is like our biggest city around here. Like if anyone gets famous that grew up in Niagara Falls or Welland or Fort Erie or any place around here, they'll all just say they're from Toronto pretty much, right? Like Drake, everyone thinks he was from Toronto, but he was from like Brampton or something. Wayne Gretzky was from Brantford, right? I don't know
I
where
got
people
you.
people think Wayne Gretzky is from, but yeah. Um, I don't know. Like it's funny that you're talking about like stereotypes or whatever because like I knew you were from London before we started this, so I expected you to have an accent, and you just like tripped me out. And I was like, oh my god, no accent. I was like, is he like an actor and he's like putting on a character right now? And I was like, what is going on? And then you eventually
Cool.
mentioned that you're from the States, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So you know, I'm a proper country boy, which real country boy doesn't have a hometown. I grew up a couple houses, different houses. One was on a route outside of town of 60 people. And then I moved with my dad on the other side of that. So Allentown is the closest town, Allentown, Illinois. And then I was born in a town where the hospital was, which is called Peoria, which sounds like urinary tract infection. You know. But,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but it's it's Central Illinois, heart of Illinois, and there's probably about 125,000 people in Peoria, I guess. How many people are in Niagara Falls?
I think it's like 80,000 or more than that, maybe, but by now.
Yeah, okay, so it's
Yeah.
about the same. I get it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can see Niagara. I mean, you've got the name, you've got the it's like living at the Grand Canyon. You've got the feat of
Yeah.
nature, which just brings you. There's not a person in the world who hasn't heard of Niagara Falls.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Even like movies and stuff I've seen like just crappy like restaurants or whatever because they film some parts in Niagara Falls every once in a while. Like they'll have like the characters go there or whatever, right? It's
Yeah, yeah. So you're
trip.
from somewhere. I'm from nowhere.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
The town I went to high school in, Morton. It's a proper German American community, and they refer to themselves as the pumpkin capital of the world, and they're proud of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's like it's like being born in a pumpkin patch. But you know what? We got an annual pumpkin festival there, and that's great. Beer tent and carny rides and like candy floss. It's all right, and the people are cool. I mean, some people are cool and some people aren't.
Just like everywhere, man. It's like that. It's like that here too, right? All right, man.
It's like what?
It's like that here too. It's like people everywhere. It's just like
Yeah.
some people are cool, some people aren't. It's just like all around the world. Like I've been like all around the world. I've been to Thailand, like all over the place, and like
Cool.
it's so poor in Thailand. And like I remember like people that like had way less than me, but when I was in trouble, just like helped me out so much there. I was a bit like I got into so much crazy shit in Thailand. I crashed a moped and got fucked up, and like I was staying at like this place where there was like cabins, and like the owner of the place just like took care of me. She like bandaged me all up for free and stuff, and it was just like very there's like nice people everywhere, like you said, or bad people too, right? Like, but I feel like overall it's like mostly nice, you know what I mean? Like generally people aren't like that shitty, at least from my experiences.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, I got two thoughts on that. You just made me think of the comedian we had on earlier tonight, Nassif Akhtar. He was piping in from India, and he says, this guy was from a village in India, and he sort of went to the bigger city, and so he was really, and he'd just been to London to our Big Smoke comedy show. That's how I knew him. He performed with Big Smoke in London, but he's speaking in a second language and doing his best to connect with the Western audience. And he was talking about how when people come to India, he says, we ask you how it is, like, how do you like India? As if sort of we need your approval before we even think where we live is any good. And then of course, when people go on holidays, they always have an amazing time. And if you go anywhere for a moment, you have an amazing time. It's if you live there that it becomes whether or not you actually enjoy it. I thought when we get down to people, talking about people, I thought about him for a second there. But then when we were talking about people in general, there's the Milgram Experiment. And the Milgram Experiment is that one where you're getting asked a question in the other room. And if you get it wrong, you get an electric shock. And the person being the person giving you the electric shock. And 2/3 of all people will murder us, electrocute us to death, give us a lethal dose of electric shock because someone in a white coat told them to. It's been done all around the world, regardless of nationality, sexuality, gender, racial identity, you name it. It's consistently like 61 to 66%. So I like people, 1/3.
Yeah.
Independent thinkers.
Yeah.
So, and you can find it, and independent thinkers come in every shape and size, just like the Milgram Experiment comes in every shape and size. So you just got to keep an eye out,
Yeah, but those people that would murder us, most of them still aren't that bad, It's all like they wanted to.
Well,
it's
that's
like
the thing.
some of them, they don't understand,
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the biggest thing is make sure we're not one of them.
For sure.
It's like, yeah, just keep it up because you never know. You're just like, shame someone for not putting a mask on or something, and then all of a sudden, could you ever put an ethnic group on a train? No, that's where you say no, right? But we can all bully each other, and we can all think we've got the majority on our side, and therefore we're right. But the majority is famously wrong throughout history. And democracy, even if you're outvoted, does not mean that you are wrong. And history will decide that. So there are moments where you might think, peace and love, I'm making a stand right here, peacefully. I mean, I tend to view art as the weapon. So if you're really, really pissed off and you really want to sort it out and settle a score, do it through art. It's a perfect way to do it. Comedy. Comedy's a great one. Music, painting, symbolism. There's a million ways to sort of connect with someone you may think you vehemently disagree with. the point is, like, I guess when you're doing a comedy show, if you got a point of view that's unpopular, is to get the other people to laugh at your unpopular point of view. And that's an art.
Mm-hmm. For
A
sure.
weapon. So yeah, if you want to needle into someone's brain that might be annoying you, make them laugh.
I feel like that's a perfect time for you to plug all your art, bro. Where can people find your shit if they want to find you on YouTube? I'll link your shit in the description as well, but like anywhere you want people to go.
I really kind of keep it offline. I genuinely keep it offline. We are located at Big Smoke Comedy on Facebook, and that's where you can find links to what we're doing. We do online shows. I've had a few people record what they do and send them to me, but I haven't really posted anything. And I was watching Jay Leno today having a conversation with Joe Rogan because I had a few minutes in the afternoon, and he'd never done an HBO special, and he rarely played big stadiums because there's something about a small group of people, like an indie gig, where you can genuinely get off your chest and find your own voice. And so for me, maybe there's something I want out there. I've sent a few things to friends, but normally I like to have people come see me or log on to the gig and take it how they like. Take it how they like. I wouldn't consider myself so polished and so ambitious so far to be slapping my clips up, but that doesn't mean I did, like, for example, the comedian that was on earlier tonight on our show, Nassif Akhtar, he had a great idea to do one joke open mics, one joke, like international. So anybody could submit a video of one joke, me too. And of course I said, sure. So I put a joke on a video and that's out there. Some of the stuff, I'm still working out in my head. I tend to want to talk about what I want to talk about and find the funny as I go. And a lot of times it could be right in that moment in front of the audience where the audience, it's that moment of time for comic relief. So it pops in my head, and that is cool. So I guess I'm just not far on the food chain. I would consider myself currently an indie comedian, developing my voice, mixing my friends from around the globe a little bit as we did tonight, and seeing what translates to all of them at the same time.
Fuck yeah, man, dude, your answers are so good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's just like, man, you're so right, bro. Fucking just keep grinding and like keep pushing and doing your thing. So like with the live shows and like that open mic of doing like one joke per like anybody, that's a great idea. Like, I think you should definitely keep doing that. I want to send a joke in to you.
I know. Yeah, do it. So you should send one to my friend Nassif. He asked me for one, and you know what I'm talking about when you meet someone and you say, yeah, I like stand up, and they're like, oh yeah, I like stand up, and you're like, yeah, I'm doing it, and they're like, whoa, I can never do that, or tell me a joke, tell me a joke.
Yeah, you hear that one all the time. Tell me a joke, for sure.
Yeah, which is it is a challenge to be put on the spot, because certainly I've said things like, you're not funny. But, like when the joke I gave to the guys on that one joke open mic was, my wife's an independent lady. In fact, on our first date, she insisted we go Dutch. So we cycled to the park, smoked a joint, and after I paid her for sex.
yeah, that's hilarious.
Jokey.
Classic misdirection.
I've also had these sets, where I literally just sort of, you don't want to apologize for your material, but I've said things on stage like, by the way, as a disclaimer, this set will be a little less jokey and a little more cathartic. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you want to talk about what you want to talk about. And candidly, even the audience, the mood will lighten you up no matter what you want to talk about. And especially like opening a show like Big Smoke. If you go on a serious note to start, it's only getting funnier all the way through the night. And if you get the running order right with the comedians and put the character acts, the weird shit in the second segment, and you start with a badass comedian right at the top, a spot they don't deserve. They should be headlining, but you put a for a spot. If you really do all that right, to me, these nights have come together like they're lovely. And so I do talk about, like, I'll talk about something super heavy. No problem. Because I know I've already invited so many funny friends that it's going to lighten up so quick at any moment that I can find the lightness, or I can just be the attention getter.
I've only ever like hosted one gig, maybe two, I think, and yeah, I want to do it like way more now because like the way you're talking about it seems like you're like so much more free when you're hosting, and it's like if you're up there hosting and you start bombing, you could just be like, all right, here's the next comedian, you know what I mean? If you really want to get out of there, and then you can jump back on, because it's like I've always like gone on stage and then it's like, oh fuck, I wish I said this, or like, oh, I forgot to talk about that or whatever. And as the host, it's like you get another shot. You know, it's like you keep getting these little shots. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you get a real nice shot at the opening of the second segment. So they might not be with you at the start, and then your friends start nailing it, and then also the nerves sort of drift away because you're hopping up and introducing new acts. Mm-hmm. So then the second, nobody went home. They obviously liked what they saw in the first segment. They didn't ditch the gig, and I pride myself hugely on who returns after the break. And
yeah.
And once they're there, you can get a little more real, and then your acts can get a little weirder, and everyone's on board. And the way we finish our show is, which is unique to any show I've ever known, is we introduce usually 8 ferociously independent stand-up comedians, and they all introduce themselves with sets. And then for the finale, we take an audience suggestion and improvise together. So everyone headlines together.
That's crazy. That's so sick, actually. That's awesome.
It's a one night only ensemble. A lot of the comedians have never even met each other. Damn. And we take an audience suggestion, and then pretty soon we're all fucking about together on stage. And I'm usually on the back line, sort of looking to see which comedians are being shy, because stand-ups maybe sometimes are shy to improvise, and then I'll invite some improvisers who are maybe decent stand-ups, but they're ringers for the finale. And then we're weaving something, and that is the most joy I find, is improvising with my fellow stand-ups for a finale. And it's often, I'd say 98% of the time, the highlight of the night.
That's so fucking cool, man. That's so cool. Like, I've seen a lot of improv shows, but I've never actually done it. And the fact to like have everyone do their own acts and then all headline together, I've never even like heard of anything like that before. That's like actually sounds amazing. You gotta trademark that, man. You gotta trademark that. It's so fucking cool.
Damn. All hell breaks loose, man. All hell breaks loose. It's scores are settled. You might even have like, maybe I get, because I'll invite anybody. I mean, our it's protect the freak. Mm-hmm. So, and even you'll get a comedian that might be super misogynist or, really hardcore something. But in the improv, the scores get settled. If it caught everybody's attention, even if everybody gasped earlier in the night, we're going to revisit that in the improv probably, because it's just this big shiny thing. And anything that's shiny, the audience suggestion, fellow comedians, someone who might have said something off color, or, there's comedians out there that get a lot right, but they're influenced by, I don't know, a grandparent or something, a point of view that doesn't quite jive all the way. And it does, because we tend to have a pretty savvy audience. But nonetheless, all these ideas get explored. They're all just suggestions as well for the end of the night. And then, the whole idea is we have a conversation together, and it's peaceful, loving, and very, very fun.
That's so awesome, man. I would love to see that show. I hope I get to go there one day. Like, I've done a lot of traveling, but like, we always would travel to poor countries where it's like hot and stuff. I don't know.
Well, you should definitely come and improvise. You should definitely come do a set, and then we'll do the finale. I mean, you know,
That'd be sick.
when I started it, they said it couldn't be done. And our third show, they were absolutely right. It was a fucking disaster. She refused to go on. Like, she showed up drunk. She showed up late. She was scheduled for 5 minutes, but it was literally like my third or fourth show. I was such a rookie. I had no control of the time. She did 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
And then she refused to improvise. She says, no, I don't want to improvise, sitting in the audience. So we start to improvise, and then she stands up, starts making a scene and making herself part of it.
Oh
Pretty soon, someone's riding her like a horse. It was chaos. It was chaos. But I got better at it, sort of explaining to the crowd and to the acts, like, you know, tap in, tap out. You know, if you want to sweep across like a curtain and start a new scene, you can do that and have fun and be yourself. And crazy stuff happens. I mean, crazy within the, you know, the realms of peace and love kind of thing. Crazy stuff happens. Comedians, some of them break the fourth wall and start talking to the audience, and it just gets chaotic, but it's quite beautiful. And there are no mistakes. Everything is acceptable. And there's always some genius that pops out, somebody unexpected in the lineup that says something amazing or does something amazing, and then I just say, "That's our show, everybody. Come back next week." You know,
that's amazing right there. I think that's a perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for doing this, bro. I really appreciate it. You're awesome.
Thanks a lot, Sab. Great to meet you, mate. And please come to London sometime. I hope we get to meet in person.
Yeah, me too, man. That'd be great. Thanks. Peace out.
All right. So long, man.